Devin Graves coming to you once again from Studio D, and today I want to talk about something you don't hear enough about on YouTube. I want to talk about how to make killer arrangements. On YouTube, it's filled with a bunch of really great tips on how to make great mixes, and even some other videos talk about the key to a great mix is a great recording. While of course this is true, the one thing that's often overlooked is having a great arrangement. Having a great arrangement will make your mix almost finished for you. I'll explain that. But first, it's important to talk about what an arrangement actually is, as opposed to songwriting. Songwriting is chords, melody, lyrics. And if your chords and your melody and your lyrics are good enough, you got a great song, no matter how it's arranged. If you strip a great song down to just those elements, a single instrument, a guitar, a piano, a single voice, singing a great song is going to be a great song no matter what you do to it. But if you want to make an engaging aural landscape, if you want to make a production that's going to take people's breath away, and if you want to make your mix easy to achieve, that's all in the arrangement. Now, arrangement is really talking about instrumentation. What instruments come, what instruments go, and how it's arranged throughout the song. But instead of thinking in terms of instruments, say for example you've got guitar, bass, and drums, you're chugging along and you want to get to a new part of the song, you want to add something. Instead of thinking, what instruments should I add? I want you to think in terms of elements. There are 5 basic elements when it comes to song arrangement. The first element is called the foundation. This is basically your rhythm section. It could be the bass and drums. It could be the bass, drums, and guitar, acoustic guitar. It could be bass, drums, and piano. Whatever it is that's laying down the foundation that is holding the same rhythmic elements. They have to be in the same rhythmic figure to be the foundation. The second element is called rhythm. Now this is something that comes in counter to the established rhythm of the foundation. Say if you're kicking your snare, you're doing 4/4 timing, going boom, tat, and the hi-hat is going tss, 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 playing quarter notes. To add a rhythmic element, say you can take a shaker or a tambourine or bongos and do 8th notes, 16th notes, or maybe even a rhythmic figure that's more complex, like anything that is above and beyond the basic rhythmic structure of the foundation. Beyond that, think beyond percussion elements. Maybe a rhythmic section is going to be an electric guitar doing some kind of rhythmic element done with guitar. It could be done with a synth patch that's a rhythmic synth patch, but the key is that it has to be counter to the rhythm that is already established in the foundation. The third element is called a pad. A pad is a long sustaining sound. Traditionally, this was like the Hammond organ. This could be a string section, or it could be sustained power chords on an electric guitar. It could be harmonic feedback. It could be a backing vocal that's saying long sustained oohs or ahs. Anything that just has a long sustained sound to it is a pad. Then of course the fourth element is called your lead. That's your melody, your lead vocal, your guitar solo, anything that's melodic that sits up front in the song. And finally, the fifth element is called a fill. Now, that's something that comes in between the open spaces on your melody. This is something good to keep in mind when you're writing your song, is to leave open spaces in the melody. Sing a line, leave a space. Sing a line, leave a space. And in that space, something else can come forward. It can be a lead guitar. It could be a synth melody. It could be an echo of the last word said on the line. It could be a vocal callback. And of course, a drum fill. Hence, fill, drum fill. Get it? So, 5 elements. Now, normally you want 3 and at the most 4 elements to be happening in the busiest part of a song. But it's also important to strip it down to have only 1 or 2 elements. This creates this contrast. You never want 5 elements playing at once. That would basically imply you have a fill going where there is a lead going, and that's just going to cause clutter. But basically you want to have at the most 3 or 4 elements going on. Another thing we want in a great arrangement is we want contrast. We want contrast from verse to chorus. So for example, if on our verse we have a really rhythmic part of the song going, say the vocals are a whole bunch of words. Take the song Epic by Faith No More for a great example here. On the verse, there's a very sparse instrumentation, just and then just drum groove and bass. And then the vocal is basically rapping, very rhythmic, very percussive vocal. And then when the chorus comes in, then the pads sustain and the vocal sings a sustaining melodic passage. So there's real contrast between the verses and the choruses. Also, from verse to verse, you want to create some sort of change. You want the arrangement to evolve. So maybe on the first verse, you just have a basic foundation happening. And then on verse 2, you can introduce a pad along with the foundation. Maybe on verse 3, you have a pad and a rhythmic element so that it's building each time. Also consider removing elements as you move forward. That creates an even more stark contrast. Say if you remove the pad and add a rhythmic element, it will create an even greater change. And that is a good move to do going from verse to chorus. Either having rhythmic section replaced by pad or vice versa. And where it comes to the mix, something else you want to think of now that you're thinking of elements. Okay, I want to add a pad here. Well, what is the guitar playing? What register is it playing? Is it just basically in the middle or the lower part of the neck? Then you'll want your pad to be probably up higher. Not so high that it's going to get into where the cymbals are on the drums, but higher than where the guitars are. So you can hear them without having to pan them or EQ them differently to get that separation. You want to have it so that there's a natural separation in the fundamental frequencies. And also, when you're adding a pad, for example, don't feel like you have to use 2 hands, having the low part of the keyboard and the higher mid part of the keyboard while there's bass, while there's guitar. Maybe just one note. Maybe just one note or one little harmony set of notes is enough. And just make sure it's out of the way of whatever is already existing in the song. Conversely, say if you're doing a power trio sort of thing and your bass is traveling up high on the neck, well, what's going to happen is you're going to lose the low end in the mix at that point. And that might be a good time to put in either a pad covering a low part of the spectrum, even a rhythmic element, rhythmic sounding keyboard, for example, doing something that's going to fill in that low end. Also, if you're having one guitar part play along with the foundation and a second guitar part doing a rhythmic type element, separate them by an octave at least or 2. Get those parts really, really contrasting each other so that you can really clearly hear them without having to juggle a bunch of frequencies on EQ. Also consider your vocal melody. Consider singing low on your first verse, then going up an octave on your second verse. Do everything you can to create movement and contrast in your song. Think of it as colors on the palette. Think in terms of song elements, arrangement elements. foundation, rhythmic, pad, lead, and fill. And if you use these creatively, your song is going to come to life and your mix is going to practically mix itself. So if you like this video, please like, because the likes will put me up higher and higher on the algorithm, and we're going to spread this channel. In the comments below, I'd like you to tell me what you've used as elements of a song creatively. What sort of creative elements you can use in just normal instrumentation. Is it acoustic guitar doing a rhythmic section? Is it electric guitar doing pads? Even if you're a metal band and only have electric guitars, bass, and drums, you can still fulfill all these elements with that instrumentation you have. So give everybody some ideas below on how they can achieve that. I'd really like to hear your ideas. So until the next one,